guys, what's going on? It's your host, Mary Mel, and we're back with another episode of Fast Fashion, the podcast experience from What Are You Wearing? Today, we're in the studio with the wonderful Nathan Michael, founder and creative lead of Low Res. Low Res serves as a visual content agency, event space, and hub for creative-minded people, and is located right in the heart of Chicago. Nathan has joined us today to tell us his personal story, how the agency helps beef up brands and their marketing strategies, and all about their amazing and impressive clients. So, welcome to the show, Nathan.
Hey, thanks. Glad to
Good
be
morning.
here.
Good morning, everyone. It's bright and
Seriously.
early. We're changing it up a bit.
I know. I had to get some extra caffeine this morning, so
Yeah, I have to
jumped
lay
in,
off,
ready
so.
to go.
I feel that. We kind of like to start by giving our guests a chance to, tell the audience about themselves. So where you're from,
Yeah.
where did you go to school?
Totally, yeah. So I'm actually from Fort Worth, Texas. I've been in Chicago almost 8 years now and love it, but I'm a Southern boy at heart. I have been able to travel all over the place. Went to school in Virginia. I went to this school called Liberty University. Then I lived in Florida, West Palm Beach, Orlando. Then I moved to San Francisco.
You're everywhere.
And now I'm in my favorite city, Chicago, Illinois.
That's amazing. This is kind of like a fun question right off the bat, but do you remember your first job? What was it?
Oh, totally. I worked at Sonic Drive-In, and I made...
Did you skate?
No, I didn't skate, but I had to clean up the messes that the skaters made. So that was always a pain in the butt because our manager, he was so funny. He had, I think, a crush on a lot of the girls, so he would never actually put them to work and make them do hard things. He'd always make the cooks, clean up after their messes, go out and, serve food when needed. And it was just, it was really...
That's
it was a humbling
terrible.
job.
But the thing is, I know you can agree with this because I worked in food service before. I worked at Panera Bread before I started college. Oh, my
Gotta
God.
love Panera.
I love Panera. I love the food. I hated the job. I hated it. It was so much work, but I think
Yes.
everyone should work in food service or any restaurant at least
Totally.
once in their life. You know what I mean? Those lessons, you'll never forget them, right?
Yeah, I mean, it teaches you how to work hard and how to really just be generous to people even if they don't treat you right. So
Exactly. You kind of learn to appreciate things a little bit more.
Totally.
When did you know that you were good at taking photos? Right after the Sonic job.
yeah, right after Sonic. Actually, I got my first camera. It was after college. My parents actually gave it to me as an early graduation present, and then I didn't graduate, so I just gave them that present back.
Are you allowed to do that?
I was like, I'll just take the camera. And so they gave me a camera, and I was 22. I tried to, I was majoring in graphic design, so I definitely loved visual aesthetics. And I thought, a camera was just a cool way to kind of show that in a different way. And so I
Right.
started, toying around with it, and over the years just got better at it. And I don't know if I felt like I was necessarily good at first. I just enjoyed the process of capturing memories and taking photos of friends, and it just kind of evolved from there.
Right. And since you were obviously a photographer at first, how did you go from being a photographer to an entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit, even growing up. I loved just kind of building things. I loved, building community. I loved building businesses, and, started off with a leaf raking company,
Yeah.
and just always had fun with that. So, for me, I think I've never really seen myself as an entrepreneur more as I've seen myself as I like building things, and I like building things with people. And so that's just been really fun for me.
That's so cool. Well, before you started Low Res, you had Beef Burrow, right? Is that correct?
Yep.
How did that happen?
Yeah, Beef Bureau is kind of an iteration of kind of how Low Res started. When I left Popular Pays, because I actually started another company before that called Popular Pays, I really wanted to get back into actually the creating aspect of making things. Popular Pays was a tech company. It was a really amazing time. I learned so much, but just kind of being somebody who likes getting their hands dirty and likes kind of tactile stuff and the actual creation part, I just miss that. So, Beef Bureau was an agency that essentially created images for local brands, and we
in Chicago.
Yep, in Chicago. So we did it for like Soho House. We did it for a lot of dynamic groups, businesses. We had a few other businesses too, and we just helped kind of a lot of restaurant industry people kind of create. Content for their social media.
Right. And when did Low Res come after that?
It was a little under a year.
Under a year.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So then I personally started getting a lot more commercial work and got hired to, shoot a lot for like American Express, Wendy's, and just started building up a little bit of a larger client base and thought like, hey, why don't I, try to at least build an agency around this? So
right.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, we're going to get into that later. But I did some research, and I know you mentioned this before you came here, but you have your own podcast. So
I do.
You being so busy with having an agency and just having an event studio with that, how did a podcast come from all of that?
Yeah, totally. So I think my heart in like even creating a little agency was I wanted to create a place where creatives could not only work and create great work together, but I wanted to create a place that we could educate and teach local creatives actually how to use their creativity to create a better place for themselves and the world around them. And so, I feel like, when you're growing up, you kind of have all these opportunities to kind of get engaged. And, after, college, you kind of lose a lot of opportunities just to learn from those around you, or there's just not that many anymore.
Or that space, really.
Yeah, that
right?
space, exactly. So, The Creative Muscle is a podcast where we teach people how to use their creativity to make a world a better place, to enhance their own creative skills, and it's kind of in line with the events that we do at Low Res Studio too. So it's a cool, like, full circle kind of holistic view of how we like to approach the creative lifestyle. And, we're just hoping that as it continues to grow, we get better at it. So
right. And gain more creative people.
Yeah.
Am I saying it right? Low res?
Yeah, it's low res.
Low res.
Low res. I like the spin you took on it though. It's kind of.
It's her accent.
It's cool.
Is it?
No, for real.
What accent? It's my low res.
Low res, yeah, like
That's
low
pretty.
resolution. So I named the company Low Res Studio because I believe that the stories we share are more important than the tools we use to share them. And I think a lot of times people get worried like, oh, can I be a good creative if I don't have great equipment, if I don't have great things?
Yeah.
And I truly believe that, creativity is more about taking risks, being vulnerable, and giving a part of yourself away to make the world a better place.
100%.
And so it doesn't matter if you have a $500, iPhone camera or an $8,000 Hasselblad. Like, what matters is, you just putting yourself out in the world and taking your story, your paradigm, the things that have shaped you in culture, to give that back. And that's why
which takes a lot, for some people to put themselves out there, especially with like all the platforms right now. We actually always talk about this, how everything is changing every single day. And I sometimes wake up and just check my stuff and, do the whole rundown of the lists of the platforms. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't keep up with anything anymore. It's almost like overwhelming. And
for sure.
What do you think about that with social media? Like how everything is changing every single day at such a high speed, what does your company kind of do with all of that? Do you guys kind of take it,
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, from a company perspective, we're very much into, we're not really about the hype as much as we are about like trying to find a way to transition from traditional advertising to more of the modern day landscape of advertising and where it's at right now.
Right.
And so as things evolve, if something's going to stick, we typically, we're glad to hop on board with that and create that kind of work. But there's so many things that are being bum rushed and bombarded at us that we're not there to experiment with every single little thing. And from a personal perspective, it's one of those things where, I don't know. I have like, I'm surprised I have like maybe like 10 apps on my iPhone. Like I don't have a ton. Like I'm probably like one of the last people to evolve to like new technology just because I don't know, it just
that's surprising.
it overwhelmed me to a point where I just wanted to live life in a present way and live life with those around me really well. And if technology enhances that, that's great. If it doesn't, I'd rather just not have it. So
Interesting. I mean, it's kind of evident that you are so in the know with technology and social media just by your following. I've creeped, but
how deep have you gone?
It's so deep, like the last post. Like,
Nice.
see how like evolved your social media has gotten.
Research.
It's
Yeah, I gotta
research,
research it.
okay? But it is pretty evident that you kind of have, this formula that you've created. And I read somewhere that you said that low res it's like where science meets art or art meets science.
Yeah, art
right?
meets science. Yeah, I think there is, an aspect to, any great artist that I don't know if they call a formula, but there's a consistent aspect to it, and sometimes that can be formulaic. I hope that all our work isn't formulaic. I want there to be kind of a sweet spot for each client that we take on. But yeah, we like to look at it as there is a science aspect to it. There is, the understanding of what people want. I think it's more of like even just a sociology, a
I
psychology
think that's
aspect
inevitable.
to it. 'Cause
Also,
it's
that
like,
there is a science behind it.
I mean, I think people who create great things or people who create great radio shows or great art, there's something about their art that connects with people. And so having the understanding to understand people or having the willingness to want to understand people, I think is a big part of it. So,
I 100% agree with that. I think it's people need to bring down those stubborn walls sometimes and their egos. And I try to tell myself that every morning, like just really try to listen to people because I
Yeah.
think that's really, really hard for some people to do. And
well, I can tell you're an amazing listener. So
thank you. I love to listen.
I'll-
I love
I'll
to
affirm
tell
that in you,
stories
yeah.
too. I really love to tell stories.
That's awesome.
What advice would you give to some people that are trying to, they just had a company, right? And they're trying to gain some following. What's like one piece of advice you would give them?
Totally. Yeah. One thing we actually say on our show is it's better to be a first-rate version of yourself than a third-rate version of someone else. And I think a lot of times social media can lead to a lot of comparison. And that comparison can lead to the feeling of the need to copy or to be an extension of someone else. And, I truly believe that everyone was created for a unique purpose. And the only way that you can do that is by getting inside of yourself and
Right.
understanding who you are and what it is you're supposed to do instead of looking at everybody else and trying to compare yourself to be someone else. So I would start there and just, look at it from the perspective of, what are the experiences that shaped you? Who are the people in your life that you really look up to? And how can you take all those things and accumulate it into, just giving that back to the world? So,
Right.
yeah.
Being in the heart of Chicago also, and having your studio there, do you think the studio has like helped your agency in any sort of way?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think anytime you position yourself in the middle again of people, and you have a willingness to be around them and learn from them, they're going to teach you a lot.
Right.
And, we've learned so much just from doing events and putting ourselves in the
I was
middle
just going to
of.
say that you guys have a shit ton of events
Yeah.
there. Like always, like you guys have some DJs playing there sometimes or like just like.
Yeah,
just
we do
people's,
some
like-
parties sometimes.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, we do seasonal parties and we do monthly doc nights. We have panels there. We do these things called starter kits where we call it like the 101 or the basics of understanding like a new cool skill. We try to really, teach and inspire and educate people
Right.
really what the creative life looks like. And so
Right.
we're still obviously getting better at that. I don't think we're hitting
No.
home
But I
runs,
actually, it's like a trend that there's like those event spaces now. Like Foxtrot. We had a panel there. It's
Yeah.
in the West Loop, but it's like there's like a trend with event spaces right now. But I think it's so smart to have like someplace like
Yep.
chill and for people to kind of like go to. But
yeah.
well, what would you describe as the perfect employee?
Wow, that's a great
Being
question.
the boss that you are.
Yeah, well, I will say that I feel really thankful to have amazing teammates. I don't really call them employees as much as like teammates just because I feel like
Yeah.
employees feels like a little bit like, follow me, do as I say.
I
And,
am your leader.
Yeah, and I feel like with my team, I've learned so much from them too that I'm really grateful just to like be on a team with them. And so although my kind of decision is the final say, I feel really encouraged to be around great people. So I think the three qualities that really stand out to me most, though, is they have to have like a humble attitude, or other ways said is like a willingness to learn. Like they have to have a humble attitude. They have to be hardworking. Like there has to be a little bit of a hustle to them, and they have to be a good communicator. And if they're not any one of those three, typically things can get like a little bit funky, But I feel like all my employees share all those characteristics, and it makes me really proud. Yeah,
that's
to have
awesome.
a team
Shouts
like
out to Low Res. I want to wrap this up by asking you, what do you think some of the biggest mistakes that brands out there can make on social media?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the biggest mistake a brand can make is not listening to the people who are wanting to engage with their brand. And I think a lot of times brands can come into the conversation and they can just talk about themselves the whole time.
Right.
It's like being on a date. If you go on a date, like you kind of want it to be a mutual conversation,
Yes.
right? Like if we go out on a drink, which we can,
Yeah.
if you're open to it. No, I'm just
I'm
joking.
good.
We can, you want that to be a conversation.
Right.
And so when brands come into like that party and they're only talking about themselves and it's like, yo, I'm cool, I'm sweet, like check me out, you're not going to be interested by them. And so the more conversational that a brand can make that conversation, I always say that social media is called social for a reason. Like people want to have a conversation with you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you lose that aspect as a brand, you're losing the opportunity not only to engage with some really cool people, but to also like learn from them and understand what they're thinking and their perceptions of your brand. So I don't know.
That was a great answer.
That's an awesome answer.
That's an awesome answer. Can we quote that? Can we quote like 10 things that you've said so far? We can do
Sure.
like Creative Muscle. or
Hashtag
Nathan
sound
White.
bites.
There you go. Nathan, thank you so much for joining me early this morning.
Glad to be here.
Thank you so much. Guys, thank you for listening to this awesome episode of Fast Fashion. And just a reminder that Fast Fashion has expanded onto Instagram, Facebook, and as well as our very own website, which is fucking dope. Make sure to follow the socials and check out the website for our upcoming episodes. And for more information on Nathan and Low Res, make sure to visit our site at fastfashionpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. And as always, stay chill out there, guys.
Stay chill.
Stay chill.
Yes.